Now, despite this, you continue to imply, Thomas, that the director and I are targeting investigators in this case. This is disgusting, even by the low standards many have for politicians. Damn, Dan. And some of the media reporting regarding prior persons of interest is grossly inaccurate and serves only to mislead the public. Oh no. Last night, an individual attempted to confront one of our U.S. attorneys, my dear friend Alina Abba. They destroyed property in her office and then fled the scene. Where was the FBI? Thomas Massie getting into it with Dan Bongino, who exploded on him after this tweet hit his feed. We're going to start here with a post from Thomas Massie in a letter sent over by an attorney. And then we'll go over to Bongino. And Bongino dropped this one. He says, all right, listen, Thomas, this is disgusting. We're going to read through that. So here's the letter. Thomas Massie posted this. He says, I received this troubling letter today from the attorney representing the most recent FBI whistleblower regarding the J6 pipe bomb investigation that we talked a lot about yesterday. Just a reminder to FBI Director Cash, in case this letter is warranted, federal law protects and prevents retaliation against whistleblowers. Dan did not take too kindly to that comment. But here's the letter from attorney Kurt. He's over there in Connecticut. He says, hey, guess what? Thomas Massie and Barry Loudermilk. Barry Loudermilk is the guy presiding over the new subcommittee for January 6th, which they tucked in the closet behind my jujitsu gi, my telescope, and my treadmill. Here's some space back here. Nobody ever comes in here or uses any of this. You can use it. So they put him back there, which means no one will ever see him again. But he got a letter along with Massie. Says, this is protected disclosure by an FBI employee. An FBI employee. Okay, we're presuming it's a current employee. It's not Kyle Seraphin. It's not somebody else who's gone. To the United States Congress related to serious misconduct and gross misconduct by the FBI. Sent to via email. Writing, pursuant to the law, please accept the following as a protected disclosure, Massie and Loudermilk, from an FBI employee related to serious misconduct by the leadership of the FBI Washington field office. On November 11, 2025, just days ago, the U.S. Congress received a protected disclosure related to the J6 bomber investigation. The J6 pipe bomb investigation was conducted by the Washington field office, as we know. Now today, the leadership of the FBI Washington field office notified its management that there will be a management meeting tomorrow at 10 a.m. Blaze comes out with their story. We all flip out about it. Who is this person? A whistleblower disclosure hit. Massie posted an excerpt of that. He said it was 11 pages. We saw 2 paragraphs of it yesterday. We talked about it. Then the FBI convenes a meeting. Washington field office, 10 a.m. They go, oh, dang. It was obvious from the information provided by senior leadership in the Washington field office, writes this lawyer, that this meeting is an attempt to identify the FBI whistleblower who made the protected disclosure to the U.S. Congress that Massie got yesterday, and Loudermilk. Now, neither of them, as far as we know, have posted the full document, but I think we might have an excerpt from Loudermilk coming up. Lawyer sends that over to Massie and Loudermilk. And in page 2, he says, the attempt by the assistant director. Oh, dang, Dan. He's talking about you. Or I think Dan might be the deputy director, so maybe it's assistant director, somebody else. And other senior leadership in the Washington field office to identify this whistleblower is a reprisal. You can't do this. The DOJ Office of Attorney Recruitment and Management, the FBI whistleblower court, has upheld the right of FBI employees to anonymously make protected disclosures without being subject to retaliation by FBI management who's trying to drag everybody in there and scold them. Identifying the whistleblower serves only one purpose, which is to allow the FBI management to retaliate. Signed by this lawyer, Kurt. Shout out to Kurt. Kurt sends this in. He says, okay, timeline. We just sent you a memo, an FBI whistleblower memo. Now I'm getting feedback. They just demanded we all have a meeting, presumably to respond to the memo. I'm a little bit nervous about that. They're telling us that this is where this is going. So then Dan Bongino responds, and man, he's not happy about this. He's responding to this post. Dan comes out. Congressman Massie, when Director Patel and I entered on duty in our leadership positions in the FBI, we had our hands full, but we were happy to be a part of the president's team, and we still are. Despite the multitude of challenges we face, one of our first initiatives was to aggressively pursue a new strategy to investigate the J6 pipe bomb terror attack. We brought in new personnel to take a look at the case. We flew in police officers and detectives working as TFOs, task force officers, to review the FBI work. We conducted multiple internal reviews, held countless in-person and SVTC meetings, meetings with investigative team members and dramatically increased investigative resources. And we increased the public award for information in the case to utilize crowdsourcing leads. We know that's why we were so excited when we thought Steve Baker was going to hit $500,000. And this is only a small sample of the work the FBI personnel and the leadership team have put into this critical investigation. When I spoke with you yesterday, Thomas, a little after 8 a.m. Eastern time, screenshots attached, so 8 a.m., 8 in the morning, I offered you an in-person brief on our work. Why don't you come down and see? I'll show you. We spoke for 10 minutes. So I called you back a bit after 7:30 p.m. Eastern time to again make that offer. You didn't answer and have yet to call me back. And he posted this morning, I believe, at 6:07 a.m. And as we saw, Thomas Massie was hanging out with Caitlin Collins last night, doing a little powwow with Ro Khanna. So maybe that's why at 7:30 he didn't answer the phone. He was out there on CNN. But anyways, so he says, you have yet to call me back. Here are the two posts. So 8:11, 10-minute phone call. They chatted in the morning. Then he says, why don't you come over to the FBI headquarters and take a look at it? Massie's like, I'll think about it. I'll call you later, whatever. Then he calls again, 7:36 p.m. Thomas Massie's hanging out with Caitlin Collins. Outgoing call, 3 seconds. Thomas doesn't answer. He says, and then today, and then you came out and you posted this message? When did he post this message? 5:17. So talks to Dan in the morning, posts the message at 5:17, goes on with Caitlin Collins. Dan calls him back and says, what the heck, bro? You could have just called me. He says, I called you back after 7:30. You never called me back. Then at 6 this morning, post a call. So like maybe Thomas was going to call him like at 8 this morning. I don't know. He said, I had a long talk with Caitlin Collins. My brain lost the 5% of my cells, so I have to recuperate. I'll call you back at 9 tomorrow. But then Dan posts this. Now, despite this, you continue to imply, Thomas, that the director and I are targeting investigators in this case. This is disgusting, even by the low standards many have for politicians. Damn, Dan, you know my number and you're free to call me anytime, but it's easier to tweet and throw BS bombs. Yes, our leadership team will be meeting with the FBI team members today, and we will avail them of all the whistleblower resources they need to disclose any evidence of malfeasance in the prior administration. It's like, well, I mean, shouldn't they just give it to you and you can give it to us? All right. And we will ask about threads that may have gone unpulled under prior leadership because we are passionate about solving this case. But a week of near 24-hour work on recent, capitalized, open source leads in the case has yet to produce a breakthrough. And some of the media reporting regarding prior persons of interest is grossly inaccurate and serves only to mislead the public. Oh no. I proudly serve in this administration, and I proudly work with the Director Patel to reform and advance the crime fighting and national security missions of the FBI. We would love to have you as a partner, Thomas, in this mission, rather than a dog barking behind a fence. Man, Dan woke up with a vengeance. So here's more from Ben Williamson. Now, Ben Williamson is also working with Director Cash and Bongino. And they came out and they said, in response to Thomas Massie, the FBI is now standing up a reaction force, which I'm not so sure I'm real happy about, because if we're going to see a lot of this, like attacking people, it's going to be a problem for them. The implication that anyone under Cash and Dan is retaliating against the pipe bombers is preposterous. Why? FBI leadership made every effort to work with Congress in the pipe bomb case and seek their input. This includes Massie. In fact, Bongino himself called Massie this morning, Wednesday, and offered opportunities to review the documents, only to see Massie go over to Twitter and grandstand rather than engage. Well, we actually want this information to come out. We don't like all these behind closed doors conversations about this. You guys have been doing this for a long time. So we want it to come out. So I'm much happier to see a letter from a lawyer saying there's a whistleblower who's calling out the FBI than I'm mad about Massie posting that. Happy to see it. The vast majority of our congressional partners have been incredibly helpful. It's easy to see who's more interested in retweets versus being helpful. I personally think what Massie has done by showing us this letter is way more helpful than anything we've gotten from the FBI on the pipe bomb case. They've given us nothing except attacked people, or maybe not attacked people, who are trying to help. You offer $500,000. We've got a gate analysis. We've got other FBI agents. Maybe you can come out and give us some insight on that. So I actually think that we'd like more. I'd like Massie to post the rest of the whistleblower report so that we can read it, because we don't trust the FBI, even under Dan and Cash. We root for them. We want them to do a good job. We want them to succeed. We're on this boat for the next 3 years. So we want success, but we're not getting it. And you can only just say, give us more time for so long before we start demanding answers, especially when we've got other reporting. Now the time is up. We've got an ID. Help us. Help us help you, Dan. So we also saw Barry Loudermilk came out. He's on the subcommittee. He says, with new information circulating, like the blaze, I am asking the FBI for evidence associated with their investigation into the pipe bombs found on J6, including all information gathered and persons of interest they interviewed, along with any surveillance footage and photos they may have obtained. My subcommittee subcommittee in the closet is focused on getting to the truth and identifying anyone involved with the pipe bombs. Okay, so now it's like Massie and Loudermilk on one side versus Dan and Cash and the FBI on the other. And we want disclosure on this immediately. So here's more from Loudermilk. He says, this information fills in some of the blanks of the previous administration that they refused to give us about the pipe bomb. Says, thank you, FBI. Thank you, Dan Bongino, for your quick response and your continued partnership in getting to the truth on these issues. And so I don't know where this came from or what it is, but they reported this. The FBI identified a person of interest walking near the RNC and taking pictures on January 5th, 2021. Then entering the Capital South Metro, departing a Metro rail station, the FBI conducted database checks on the smart trip card of the person of interest and obtained records associated with the movements of person B. Surveillance activities identified a similar vehicle parked at the residential address identified from the records. The FBI determined that person B was staying at that address. However, they were not the owner of the residence. In January, the FBI interviewed the owner of the residence. The owner, so the FBI did have contact with somebody. The owner stated POI B was a friend. I think this is the neighbor who's the Air Force guy, and they allowed POI B to stay with them. So the FBI did call. He didn't say that. Interviewed the owner in person or over the phone, because he talked to somebody over the phone. He thought it was the Metro. He didn't say it was the FBI. The owner stated the person of interest B was a friend, and they allowed B to stay with them for January 6th rally. The owner provided the driver. The owner provided POI B with their smart trip card. Then in January, the FBI interviewed the neighbor, and then they interviewed the guy who went to the rally. On January 5, B attended the rallies at the Capitol and the Supreme Court, confirmed that they did go to the RNC, took pictures there, did not go to the DNC. B was taking pictures of a number plates for a book they're writing, and said, here, look at my camera. Appeared to be images of numbers and residential buildings near the RNC. So a little bit more information about the neighbor and the gate analysis. We're understanding from the Blaze that I think these are kind of two independent theses. So in other words, the gate analysis brought us to Shawnee Kirkhoff, and coincidentally is the theory, Kyle Seraphin was also an FBI agent whose team was assigned to watch the neighbors right next door, and the neighbors were traced there via the Metro smart card. Back to that location, brought Kyle Seraphin there, and it's just a coincidence. The actual gate analysis is not corroborated by this location. It's, I guess, presumably wrong, and it's not Shawnee Kirkhoff is the thesis. So that came out from Loudermilk, and another rub on this whole thing, which is just a total joke, is that we still don't really know definitively when the DNC pipe bomb was laid. Okay, we watched the hooded pipe bomber walk around on January 5th, the night before. We've got videos of them sitting by the DNC saying that this is the moment they dropped it off, right? You see the footage. Here's pipe bomb here, one at the RNC, one at the DNC. But then the subcommittee comes out and says the moments before and after the discovery of the pipe bomb are an important aspect to our investigation, talking about outside the DNC where President VP-elect Kamala was, as we continue to try to unravel the events surrounding the planting of these devices. This whole thing just befuddles the imagination. This is Washington, D.C. It's the most secure place, or should be, on the whole friggin' planet. They can't trace somebody who was walking around the Capitol. The pipe bomb that was planted outside the DNC was discovered at 105 on J6. The security video below is from the building and encompasses the time frame 1:30 p.m. and the time frame there. And the pipe bomb was planted. It was discovered at 105, and they're seeking questions from a lot of people. All right, so that's over from Loudermilk. They're releasing more video. Still no clear answers in that video that was just shared with us. But we see now that the FBI is creating a rapid response account under Director Patel and Bongino and co-deputy Bailey. Your FBI is in a new era, one where we communicate more than any FBI ever before and more directly with the American people about the important work that we're doing. But that's only a piece of what we're doing. Our team continues to face an avalanche of lies and smears and falsehoods from the fake news and others seeking to undermine our work and national security. No FBI has had the temerity to put truth as we have. They bent the knee to lies in DC swamp. We changed that on day one, and now we will go even further and more direct. The days of bad faith attacks and fake news narratives are over. Welcome to FBI Rapid Response. So I guess they're going to come fight back against all of us who are asking questions. The FBI, Tucker said, the FBI told us Thomas Crooks tried to kill Donald Trump last summer, but somehow had no online footprint. The FBI lied, and we can prove it because we have his posts now. The question is why? Story tomorrow from Tucker Carlson. Oh, great. Another person who's going to hold the tension on a corrupt FBI that covered up that story, which is Trump getting shot in the head. They burned his body. There was a formal commission. His house was cleaned up. The whole crime scene was watered down. Secret Service didn't record anything. We've got a bunch of open questions about that should be answered. They don't care. They've moved on. Tucker holds the tension on it, continues to investigate this to bring more transparency about what actually happened here because the FBI has not, and they're going to come out and go after him now. This is going to be a problem. In response to that, the FBI has never said Thomas Crooks had no online footprint, ever. So don't call us a liar. Okay, you see how this is going to go. So, all right, well, I guess if you want to split semantics over this, and you guys really didn't say much about Thomas Crooks at all. That's kind of part of the problem. So we're looking forward to seeing what Tucker had to say, but I have a feeling this is not going to be good. I really appreciated the rapid response teams and stuff like that, but a lot of Trump's own base, a lot of the FBI's own base, okay, Tucker Carlson has defended Dan Bongino. I've heard him explicitly. He's a good guy. He trusts him. He thinks he's doing what he can in the middle of a bad entity. So now the FBI is going to come out and attack people who are asking questions of the FBI. It's going to make it very adversarial. And it honestly kind of feels pathetic. You guys just do a good job and be honest. You don't have to come out and scream at everybody who is asking questions of you. I would be screaming from the rooftop if we had FBI Director Wray coming out and doing this. So we'll see how this one goes. But I don't appreciate our government calling us liars or smearers or purveyors of false information for filling in the gaps that the FBI is refusing to respond to. So they'll have a rapid response. Maybe they could respond rapidly to Shawnee Kirkhoff. Maybe they can respond rapidly on the Epstein story. And the list goes on and on. So all that's going on. And meanwhile, while our FBI and DOJ are telling us to just trust them, they're doing an awesome job, Alina Abba got attacked. Bondi came out and said last night, an individual attempted to confront one of our U.S. attorneys, my dear friend Alina Abba. They destroyed property in her office and then fled the scene. Where was the FBI? Thankfully, Alina is okay. Any violence or threats of violence against any federal officers will not be tolerated, period. This is unfortunately becoming a trend as radicals continue to attack law enforcement agents around the country. And apparently there's a manhunt. U.S. seeks a man who appeared with a baseball bat at her office. Law enforcement authorities were seeking a man who brought a bat to the office of Alina Abba, appeared outside, was barred by security from entering. However, when he returned without the bat, he went in. They said, oh, you don't have your bat, go on in. Yeah, she's in her office. He then went to the floor where Abba's office is and began yelling incoherently and smashing property. You can see she's not appreciative of that. And says, it is unclear whether he made any specific threats. Bondi came out with the message. FBI spokeswoman said the agency was aware of the man's appearance, but hold on a second, let me post on Twitter about it. Though it was not immediately clear whether the man was targeting her or what. These are more threats and attacks. Obviously, they shot and killed Charlie. And Alina Abba, don't worry, she says, I will not be intimidated by radical lunatics for doing my job. And that's right. Yeah, neither will we, Alina. Thank you for that. So FBI duking it out. Dan Bongino exploding all over X, screaming at Massie. And now rapid response is, almost screaming at Tucker. We never said that. Ever. We never said. Okay. What did you guys tell us about Thomas Crooks? Nothing useful. Nothing helpful. It's mystery. And remember that bipartisan committee that Congress was going to form too? And then as they formed that, the body got evaporated. So there's nothing really to investigate. All right. We'll see how this goes.